Penguin Random House Audio presents The Spider, a Killer Instinct novel by Lars Kepler. Translated by Alice Menzies and read for you by Saul Reichlin.
Once upon a time, there was a serial killer by the name of Jurek Walter. He was more cruel and he killed more people than any other murderer in Northern Europe. The man who eventually brought his killing spree to an end was Detective Superintendent Joona Linna. Joona doesn't believe in innate or metaphysical evil and would probably suggest that Jurek had simply lost the part of his soul that enables a man to be human. Only a handful of people knew of Jurek's existence, but the majority would no doubt argue that the world became a better place without him. Jurek Walter is now dead, but just because something is gone doesn't mean it has disappeared entirely, as though it never existed. When something ceases to exist, it leaves behind a dangerous void, a void that will eventually be filled in one way or another. Chapter 1. Margot Silverman hears the thudding of the horse's hooves against the bark chips as it gallops along the illuminated trail. The sky is dark, the August air cool. The trees race by on either side of her, fading away into the night before reappearing in the glow of the next lamppost. Margot is the head of the National Crime Unit in Stockholm, and she goes riding in Värmdö, to the east of the capital, 4 times a week. It helps to clear her head and center herself. The horse charges along the narrow trail, and the quick pace makes her heart race. She catches brief glimpses of things in her periphery: fallen trees, the far edge of the field, a damp sweater with a smiley face on it, draped over a barrier. Margot leans forward and feels the breeze on her face. The horse's movements are asymmetrical as it gallops, its left hip higher than the right. Each 3-beat gait ends with its right front leg pushing off from the ground, followed by a moment of suspension. In those few seconds, as they fly through the air, she feels a tingle in her thighs. Catullus is a Swedish warm-blood gelding with long legs and a powerful neck, and Margot needed only to shift her outside leg back and push her hip forward to help spur him into a gallop. Her braid thuds against her back each time his hooves hit the ground. She sees a deer bolt across a clearing through the swaying ferns. The lights are broken on the last part of the trail, and Margot can no longer see the ground in front of her. She closes her eyes and puts her faith in Catullus, allowing herself to be carried forward. When she opens her eyes, she spots the bright stable between the trees and slows to an extended trot. Margot's chest and back are sweaty, and she can feel the lactic acid burning in her muscles after an hour's interval training. She walks Catullus in through the gates and dismounts. It is almost 11 p.m., and Margot's silver Citroën is the only car still parked outside the stable block. She leads the horse through the darkness towards the building. His bit clinks, hooves beating softly against the dry, trampled grass. From one of the stalls inside, she hears a couple of loud thuds. Catullus stops dead, lifting his head and pulling back slightly. "Hey, what's up?" Margot asks, squinting into the darkness between the tractor and the nettles. The horse is afraid, exhaling heavily through his nostrils. She strokes his neck and tries to coax him towards the stable, but he refuses to budge. "What's going on, buddy?" He shudders and veers sharply to one side, as though he is about to bolt. "Whoa, whoa!" Margot grips the reins and firmly leads him in a half-circle through the tall meadow grass and out onto the gravel. The lights outside the stable block give everything nearby 3 sharp shadows. Catullus snorts and lowers his head. Margot squints at the end of the building, and though she can't see anything, she shudders. Once they are safely inside the bright stable building, she takes off her helmet. The tip of her nose is red, her blonde braid heavy against the back of her quilted jacket. Above the tops of her long boots, her jodhpurs are dirty. The smell of hay and manure hangs heavy in the air. The other horses are quiet as she leads Catullus to the wash stall, takes off his saddle and hangs it up in the heated tack room. A couple of stirrups clink against the wooden wall. Her first job is to rinse Catullus down and give him a blanket. Then she needs to take him to his stall, feed him, give him a little extra salt, and turn out the lights before heading home. She reaches into her pocket to make sure she hasn't lost her father's old hip flask. She uses it for hand sanitizer rather than liquor, not because it's especially practical, but because it brings her luck and amuses her. The door onto the yard creaks, and Margot feels a rush of unease. She steps out into the main area and peers towards the front of the building. She hears Catullus shuffling in the wash stall behind her. The hose is dripping, a dark trickle of water flowing around the sweat scraper towards the drain. Several of the other horses snort, their hooves striking the ground, while the electrical cabinet on the wall emits a low hum. "Hello," says Margot. She holds her breath, standing perfectly still, with her eyes on the door and the dark window for a moment before turning back to Catullus. She can see the ceiling light mirrored in the curve of his black eye. Margot hesitates, then takes out her phone and calls Johanna. Her wife doesn't pick up, and she feels a knot of anxiety in the pit of her stomach. For the past 2 weeks, Margot has had the sense that someone is watching her. She even began to wonder whether Special Investigations or the Security Service has her under surveillance. She isn't a paranoid person, but a number of anonymous calls and a pair of missing earrings have left her wondering whether she or Johanna have themselves a stalker. Margot tries calling again. The phone rings and rings, but right as the voicemail is about to kick in, she hears a crackling sound. "Drenched and naked," Johanna answers. Margot smiles. "How do I always manage to call at the right time?" "Hang on, let me put you on speakerphone." Something rustles and the background noise changes. An image of a nude Johanna standing in the middle of their brightly lit bedroom, fully visible from the apple orchard outside, flashes through Margot's mind. "Sorry, I'm just drying off," says Johanna. "Are you on your way back? Need to give the little man a quick hose down first. Remember to drive carefully." Margot can hear Johanna rubbing herself with a towel as they talk. "Make sure you close the curtains and check the door is locked," she says. "It's like we're in Scream. You're watching me from the garden right now, aren't you? And by the time I manage to lock the door, you'll already be in the house." "This isn't funny." "Okay, boss." "Oh, I don't want to be the boss anymore. I'm no good at it. I was fine as a detective, even if I was a bit cocky. But now that I'm in charge—" "Stop!" Johanna interrupts her. "I'd have you as my boss any day." "Ooh la la," Margot laughs, her mood improving. She hears Johanna lower the blind, the cord clinking against the radiator. "Put the blue lights on and come home," Johanna tells her. Her voice sounds faint, distant. "Were you able to get the girls into bed?" "Yeah, although Alva asked me whether you like your horse more than you like her." "Ouch," Margot says, laughing. The minute they hang up, the feeling of unease comes creeping back on her. She can still hear a faint clinking sound, which continues for a moment or two before stopping. It must be coming from somewhere in the stable building, Margot thinks. It sounds like when the buckets hanging in the aisle knock together. One of the horses pushes up against the wall, making it creak. Margot turns towards the door. It looks like someone tall is trying to hide in the shadows over by the feed room. The rational side of her knows it's just the cabinet where they keep the brooms, but it seems to be standing much further out than usual.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?